Hey guys, welcome back to Chinese TCG Store. Today I have another Yu-Gi-Oh! Market Watch for you. The first card I have today is Book of Lunar Eclipse Starlight Rare, which just got bought out. And it went pretty high initially. I think lowest I saw them around 190, and I got really excited because this is a card that I have 3 copies of. And I was like, you know what? I never thought I would be able to get rid of this card for a profit. So very stoked to see this go up in price. It has since not really moved. I mean, you can see the last sale here was for 127, and I probably should have just listed mine for like 140 initially and just been happy with the sale. But I did stick it up around 175, I believe, and it did not sell. And as you can see now, I still have them listed for around 140. The reason I only have two, I didn't sell one, is one of them is actually it's got like a little bit of damage on the side, and it came that way when I bought it, unfortunately. So I'm not going to pass that along to somebody else. I'm just going to eat that copy. But I also don't want to sell it for damage because to me it's worth more just to keep because it still looks really cool. So I don't want to like sell it for 30, 40 bucks just because it has like a little nick on the edge. But yeah, two of them are near mint. But now they're starting out like 139, 140, and they go back up towards 150. But I do think these are going to settle back down. And honestly, I might lower my price on these a little bit. As far as should you pick this card up, no. Even though I have mine for sale, I would not advise you to go buy them or any other copy of this card. If you remember, this card was selling for around 75 to 80 for the longest time, and I don't know that it'll go back down towards $75 right now because I think people are still going to want to hold on to these or buy them here and there as they get cheaper. Because I do think this card is pretty good, but it'll probably settle around like 100 to 120, especially since people just paid quite a bit of money for some of these copies, so they're not going to be enticed to sell these for $80, which I probably wouldn't either. But I do expect this card to go back down, maybe towards like I said, 100 to 120, which is better than being at 75. So if you have these and you want to sell them, if you can get like 120, 130 for them, maybe even 140, if there's a little bit more hype around it, then definitely do it. I would take the money. But if you just enjoy the cards, then definitely hang on to them. Is not a bad option either. These are absolutely gorgeous. I don't have too many Starlight rares. I only have this one. I have 3 copies of this, and then I have one Torn Scales. But I've had a lot of Starlight rares that I have bought and then resold. So I will say right now that this is one of my, I'd say, top 2 favorite looking Starlight rares. The other one that I really liked when I had it was the Farragut. That one was pretty good looking. And then also I really liked the Incredible Ecclesia when I had that one. I would say Incredible Ecclesia was my favorite one, and this is probably number 2. I don't know why. Spell cards just look really good in Starlight Rare. Moving on, the next one is Purple Poison Magician, and I noticed this got bought out, but now the price is moving back down. I meant to list this card up because I have a ton of these, because I remember right when I started getting back into the game, Pendulum, I guess it was like around early 2019 when I got back into the game, but Pendulum Evolution at the time was like on the clearance rack, basically, like at Walmart. Like you could buy packs of this for like, I think it was like $2.99 or something. And I didn't really know what was in the set because when I came back in, I didn't really know anything about, maybe it was late 2018 when I came back in. So, whenever it was, these were readily available pretty much at any Walmart that I went to in the clearance aisle for cards, which now you don't really see anymore. But I opened these for fun, didn't really know what was in the set, and that's actually how I learned about Pendulum cards. I remember I opened the set and saw these and were like, what the hell is this? But so I have a ton of bulk from that set. Long story short, not really. I ended up going on the long story, but right now these are at 235 and bottoming out towards around $3. They did go up towards 7 or 8. So I'm sad that I didn't get my copies on here for sale, but if you have these, you might want to look to get rid of them. They probably won't go back up. They'll probably stick in this, $2 to $3 range. But if you just have bulk copies and you just want to get rid of them and, get a couple of bucks or, get a little bit of store credit, definitely worth doing. It is a good card though, but I just don't think Pendulum's going to take off. And I think the reason why it is up in price as well as when we go further down the line, you'll see the same with Odd Eyes. Revolution Dragon is the new Draco Slayer deck, is pretty dang good from what I've seen. I just don't know that it's going to be adopted widely because it is kind of a hard deck to play. Not quite on the level of like DDD, but definitely you need to know the deck pretty well, and it's just not the easiest, most intuitive deck to play. Next is Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops, secret rare here from the Infinity Chasers. This is going from $1.50 to $1.75, kind of bottoming out here, I guess, around the $2 range. If you don't have some of these, I would suggest picking them up. They're super cheap. They don't really have any room to go cheaper, but they're just really good. This card's really good, hard to get over. 4,000 attack. All you need is 3 Xyz monsters. I remember when I was playing like Numeron Zodiac, which sounds like a pretty terrible deck, but it was actually pretty good. You can make this monster and just keep reviving back your Trident, which was insane. But also at that time, we also had Utopic Zexal, which was just a insane card. I can't believe that card was ever made. Definitely one of the most powerful cards ever made. And Numeron's like made it a problem because it was just too easy to get out. But this card is unaffected by other monster effects, except for Xyz monsters, which a lot of decks aren't playing Xyz right now, and cannot be destroyed by battle except for with an Xyz monster. So I mean, like for a lot of decks, it's really hard to get over this card, which is pretty frustrating if you're trying to play against it. But yeah, I guess that basically you can only get rid of it with like an Xyz monster or like some kind of spell or trap removal. But super cheap at this price. It does have an ultra rare, but I would just stay away from it because the ultra rare is not that much cheaper. You might as well just get the first edition secret rare. At one point, these were, I think, when Numerons came out, this card was going for $10 to $12. And definitely if we have an Xyz deck that's good in the future, I think this card always has, some potential to see play. But kind of specific. And you don't really see Xyz decks come around that too often. So you could sit on it for a while, but I think it's a great card to have. Next is Zodiac Whiptail. For whatever reason, I was thinking about Zodiacs, even though the deck is completely demolished, like without Trident, just can't really function. I don't know why Trident needs to really be on the ban list at this point with the power creep that we have. When it did go into the list at the time, made perfect sense to me. Like it was just, Zodiac, Tri-Brigade was just really strong, but I think now it's kind of safe to come back, in my opinion. I just don't really see it as a problem. Whenever I'm playing on Dueling Nexus, like if you're playing against bots, just because you're like trying to figure out your combos, and it can be helpful because it kind of prompts you with what effects you're able to do, and you're able to see what's kind of legal instead of trying to just go onto Dueling Book, which I do like Dueling Book better, but that's more for like when I really understand the deck. I don't know where I was going with that, but oh yeah, I remember. So yeah, for whatever reason on Dueling Nexus, when you play against the bots, I don't know what ban list they use. They don't let you use ban cards, but they definitely do. Like you'll see a full powered like Zodiac deck running like 3 Trident, and still it's not really. I haven't really seen that as a problem either. Like just in testing, like it's still not that oppressive. But yeah, I think Trident's safe to come back. I guess that's what I'm getting at. But even if it does come back someday, Zodiac Whiptail would be a card that will still see play in that deck. Ultimate rare here, and this was going for like $70 at the time, or 55 to 70, but now it's definitely down towards like 26, 27. So if you want to pick some of these up, you're probably gonna be sitting on these for a while, and they probably won't move much in price for a while, but there's potential. It's also kind of just like the collectability. Like if you like collecting meta strategies from different formats, this is kind of the classic tier 0-ish type deck, when it was seeing play years ago. But yeah, 27, not bad at all. Something to consider. It's not like you need to pick this up now, just something you can think about over time, because it's probably going to stay at that price for a long time. Next is OTS Tournament Pack 20. I've been excited for this pack. It's not honestly oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm not sure what happened. It's not the best OTS pack that we received like this last year, but it's pretty good for specific players. So for like Sky Striker players, like this pack is awesome because you kind of able to round off your deck with mostly ultimate rares as far as monsters and extract monsters go. And you can play like completely high rarity for the monsters because you can still do the Rose and Starlight rare. So a gorgeous deck. This has been, getting bought out pretty much since it's come up on TCG Player, running in the $90 range. I do think it'll cool down over time. I think, as a couple of weeks go on, this will probably settle out in towards like this 65 to 70 range. But long term, it has a lot of potential to be, quite a bit over 120, maybe 150 to 200 even. Just because people are always going to play Sky Striker. Like, you have the diehard players, and a lot of those players want to play this deck in max rarity, which makes sense. Why not? It's a deck that you can invest into and pretty much play through any formats. And, it's always somewhat good. I mean, a lot of times it's just mostly rogue, but I feel like there are short periods of time where Sky Striker does really well in between formats, really. But it's definitely a deck that you can invest your money into and play those high rarity cards and know that it's going to last you for, months to years to come. Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. This is probably the card I'm most excited about from this set. I really think they did a good job with the foiling on this. Like the cross foiling, it looks really well. Under 60, not too bad. I am having a hard time kind of guessing what the price for this can go. I do think that's going to go up over time, maybe settling out towards the 120 range, but when will that happen? I'm not really sure. And honestly, in the short range, it could go down more from here, especially if it's not sync play. It could go down towards like 39 to 40. So it's going to be interesting to see. Do I think it's a bad price at 60? Not necessarily, but, I would kind of wait and let some more copies come on and just kind of see where the price goes. One of the worries I have, especially since I want to pick these up, is that if I wait to pick them up, then they might just, skyrocket. Especially with the format that's coming with the Shizu. This might be a card that sees play with the Shizu players. So it's kind of a toss-up. It's kind of hard to predict the outcome on this. So I guess what I'm going to say is, if you really, really want this card, you might not want to risk it. You might just want to go ahead and pick them up. Or if you know somebody locally that's offering copies of this for sale, maybe see if you can get a deal on them. Aliber at 55 is honestly not a bad price for this card. I was thinking it would be, 65 plus, and as you can see, the market price is 67. If you want to get these, I would say just go ahead and pick them up. They might settle down towards like 45 to 50. But I don't know. I think it's probably worth it. The only concern I have with this card is Despy has been pretty consistently topping since it came out here and there. It has been periods where it's kind of, taken the back seat, but recently it's been doing pretty well. I mean, it's not winning like Sprite or Tier Lament, but they're getting pretty high up in tournaments and, consistently getting top spots. So definitely something that you could worry about on a ban list in the future. And if they were going to ban something for the archetype, I mean, Aliber is like your most powerful searcher. So hopefully they don't ban this card, or not ban it, but limit it. I don't think they're going to ban it. But honestly, I think more likely they would probably limit branded fusion before they hit Aliber. So I think Aliber is decently safe, but you just never know. Konami can be kind of backwards in the thinking department sometimes. Next is Herald of Orange Light, and this is the last card I'm going to talk about in the set. But I think if you can get these for $5-6, I would scoop them up, because I do think this will end up being $10 to $12, pretty quickly here. Once we get a Shizu out, this is a card that's going to see play most likely. At least what I've seen in deck profiles from the OCG and kind of the deck profiles of people that are testing this deck out online before the set releases. Definitely a really strong card. And then you also have to factor in that there are Drytron players, but most of them are going to have. Well, I guess Drytron doesn't really play this card anymore, so I take that back. Yeah, that's right. That's the last card I was going to look at. Nibiru. I want to take a look at this. Usually this price is in like the 160-ish range. And if it's seeing a lot of play, I have seen it go to like 180, 190, close to 200. I was surprised to see that it's down to 141 here for 2 copies, and then it comes up a little bit towards 146 for a playset. I think that's a really, really good price. Most hand traps that I've seen, over time are in the 200 plus range, or at least a lot of them. I think Droll was over $200 for a while. It might have come down now, but it was like in the 220 to 250 range. Um, Ghost Ogre was definitely over the 200 range. I don't know if it still is or not. I haven't looked at it in a while, but yeah, a lot of times we see hand traps. They do over time do pretty well, and Nibiru is probably going to see play pretty much forever. I can't really imagine this card like kind of getting power crept too much. There's definitely formats where it's not as popular. Right now, I don't really like playing Nibiru specifically because Sprite and getting locked out of being able to summon it. But it is still something that I put in my side deck from time to time, especially with tier, because tier doesn't really have too many ways to deal with it. But yeah, I just think it's a great card to get at this price, and could definitely see this going up over time for sure. I don't know if it'll hit 200 specifically for this card. I don't know, because some people don't really like that it's got like this misprint here with the numbers. I actually think it's pretty cool personally, but some people don't like that. And I guess the only other thing is you do have some pretty high rarity versions of it available for really cheap, which can be detrimental because some people, like if you have, let's say, Joel and Lockbird, before it got the collector rare, either the highest rarity you could get was ultra rare or get the ultimate rare. So a lot of people would want the ultimate rare because there's not like a good alternative. There's not a secret rare. But with this card, we have two different types of secret rares. And then we have ultra rare, I guess, now as well. I think, is that all the printings? I think so. But yeah, so there's a secret rare alternative, even though I think ultimate rare, I mean, people are still going to love. But yeah, I don't know. I think it definitely deserves to be more expensive than this, even though that sounds kind of weird, but not really deserve. I guess I would expect this to be more expensive than it is. Next is Skullmeister. So I want to preface this with, I think in this coming format, you'll see board breakers seeing a lot more play than hand traps. And if we do see hand traps, I would expect it to be higher impact hand traps because Ash Blossom, Effect Failure aren't going to really cut it. You can still play them, like, depending on the deck. Like I think Dragon Link does well with having like Effect Failure just because it is a light target that you're able to banish, at some point in your combo. So for reasons like that, it makes sense to still play that. But for the most part of other decks, I would see them kind of getting away from hand traps because individual, low impact 1-for-1 hand traps aren't going to really slow tier limit down enough to make an impact. But if you were going to play hand traps against tier limit, some of the better ones I can think of would be Ghost Bell, and potentially Skullmeister, because you can stop them from activating their card effects when they hit the grave, which is pretty good. Ghost Bell, I think, is better than Skullmeister in most cases, and it has a little bit better applicability across different decks, not just tier element. But Ash can be pretty good as well against tier limit because it does prevent you from dumping cards to the graveyard, I think, pretty sure, because it's either stop adding to hand or prevents them from dumping to the graveyard. I'm going to check real quick just to make sure. I don't actually see that come up too often in the past, but I'm pretty sure. Send a card from the deck to the graveyard. So yeah, should stop that effect, which is pretty good as well. But regardless of the seeing play for Skullmeister, it's probably one of my favorite looking collector rares. Like if you haven't seen it in person, these skulls are just like the texture and the detail looks amazing. And it's a really dark card. And honestly, that's one of the things I liked about Ancient Guardians, even though it was a terrible set. Did have cool archetypes, but none of them were very good. But they did a really good job with the collector rares as far as texturing and detail, and it had really stepped it up from the prior set, which I believe was the Drytron set, which I can't think, what was it called? I don't know, the Drytron set. There was a big difference you could see from set to set as far as the quality and detail of the collector rares. But yeah, $75, not too bad on this card. I think when it was released, it was like around 120, and then for most of its existence, I've seen it around the 90 to 100 range, and it seems like it's really falling out now. So something to keep your eye on if you were wanting to get this card or potentially play this card. Next is Starving Venom, and someone left a comment that they think that these are a good pickup right now, specifically for the original print secret rare first edition, which I agree to a certain extent. These are definitely low in price right now compared to where they have been, like around 10 and under right now. Unfortunately, the Garura is better for now, and I think also your Predaplant Dracostophalia is also really good right now. So this just isn't seeing as much play, which I think is why this isn't getting bought up. But doesn't mean that it won't see play in the future. I actually still play one copy of this card in Branded Despia, and the reason is it's a good way to get over cards that are high attack, but also are unaffected by monster effects. So for example, you can't just use Mirror Jade to get rid of it. So I've actually used this card before to battle over like 4,000 attack monsters that aren't affected by monster effects, because whenever you special summon this card, it gains attack to one of your opponent's special summon monsters, which obviously gives it a lot of high attack points and can help you get over some of those issues. So definitely still a good card, but there's just definitely better cards to play right now. So I wouldn't pick up a bunch of these, but if you want to pick up, 1 or 2 copies, long term, is not a bad idea. Moving on, like I talked about this earlier, but Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon seeing play in the new Draco Slayer deck. These are up quite a bit in price, $15+ on the secret rare, which this kind of gets bought out all the time, but usually around the $8 to $10 range is usually where it kind of bottoms out to. Ultra rares are at $250. And then going up to $3 from there. If you have these, I would actually sell them, and probably same with the secret rares. Like if you're not playing with these tend to go up in price and then come back down later. So even if you want these for your collection, or if you just want them as an option to build decks with in the future, and you aren't playing the Draco Slayer deck right now, I would get rid of them. I'm going to sell my ultra rares. I don't have any secret rares, but I do have a bunch of ultra rares from when I opened the 2021 10s. So it'd be nice to get a little bit of cash for those. Next is Madolche Queen Tiramisu, ultimate rare. If you're familiar with Madolche, it's kind of got like a very loyal following, and this card gets bought out all the time. Not as much recently, but like over the last 3 years, or 2 or 3 years, I've seen this card get some pretty crazy buyouts. First editions right now are pretty cheap. I think the last time I checked on this card, first editions were like 130 for lightly played and like 145, 150 for near mint. But they're down to $85, and near mints, you got one here for 95, but typically I only go by the gold sellers. Let's see, near mints are running 120, which is not bad, but I think if you're going to pick them up, lightly played's not a bad way to go with this, being around, I guess like $30 cheaper, around $30 cheaper. And if you wanted a near mint, I would advise against it, because again, like the people that are buying these are gonna want the first edition. I don't always say that near mint, like first edition is the way to go, or not near mint, I don't always say that first edition is the only way to go. It's usually the best way to go, but in a situation like this, it's really the best way to go. If you want to get it unlimited, they are pretty cheap, but again, I would advise not doing that. But it's up to you. You're going to be sitting on it for a while, and if there is a buyout, it's not going to be as much of a price increase as the first editions. But a gorgeous card. I have heard that the new, I guess, is it Vernisif? I've heard those cards are decent with this strategy, but I haven't really seen it top or anything. So until I start seeing it coming on the tournament scene, then I won't really talk too much about Madolches as a whole. But definitely a cool deck, and definitely really strong with the resources. I was looking at some Legendary Collection 5Ds cards, and this is the best selling list. And from what I've seen, a lot of the Blackwing cards have kind of disappeared. Of course, there are a lot of, Blackwing fans, so it makes sense that people are trying to build this deck and, seeing what they can do with it. Value of the Emblem of Honor is up to 20, and low listings only 17. This is what really surprised me, but Silverwind the Ascendant, super rare, is down to 4 listings only, and there's one copy here for like around 450 with shipping. But then it goes up towards like $9-10. Let's actually click in here and see. There might not even be another version for sale. $14 here for near mint first edition. That is crazy. If you have these, I might list them up, honestly, because I do suspect that more copies of this will come onto the market and should go back down. Legendary Collection 5Ds is just quite old now, so whenever people get excited about a deck and there's a card in here that they need, they just tend to get bought up pretty fast, and it takes a little while for them to, the copies to repopulate. Bora the Spear, market price at 25. Lightly played here for 20, but there's only 27 listings left. Blizzard Far North is around $14 to $15, 37 listings. Armor Master, $15. Like, this is crazy how much value is back here. Gale the Whirlwind, is this the one that's banned? I can't remember. I wasn't around, so I'm not too familiar with Black. I mean, I did watch the anime, so I know Blackwings, but I don't know competitively which of the Blackwings card was banned. Let's keep going. Blackwing Dragon, the ultra rare, is $6-7 here, which is absolutely nuts. That doesn't really make sense, but there's 6 listings. I don't remember which set the original print came from. I don't know if that's it or not. But yeah, this is just the best selling from Legendary Collection 5Ds, and it's pretty much all Blackwings for the most part, other than a few staples. But pretty crazy to see. Some of these cards I've never even heard before. Yeah, I mean, mostly Blackwings. If you have Blackwings, like if you opened a bunch of this set back in the day, or just like Blackwings and have a bunch of extra copies of these, I would consider maybe getting rid of them, just because they're so high in price and they should come back down over time. High rarity stuff like ultimate rares and stuff, you can hold on to that stuff. That stuff's not really going to be affected, but some of these, whenever you see copies start getting back onto the market, the prices should come down. Vanity's Emptiness is actually originally why I was looking at this set. I wanted to see what the price was at, and it's around $15, which is down from its market price. So if you want to pick up some of these, it'll probably never come off the ban list, but as far as past formats and collectability, I think it's a solid card to have. It does get bought up to like 25, $30. I've seen it happen a few times. So if you just want to hold it, gamble, or if you just like the card, it's not a bad idea to pick up right now at its current price point. And then that's going to be the last cards that we go over today, but I did make another spreadsheet today to kind of go over. So for the buy category, I have Skullmeister, and really any copy, because all the copies are pretty cheap. So collector rare, secret rare, super, like specifically holo. If you want to get rares, I mean, they're pretty budget. They're like 20-30 cents. I mean, which is not bad either if you just want them to play with and not really invest into. But if you want to invest, stay with a holo version. Zodiac Whiptail, again, like I mentioned, this is not like you don't need to go buy a bunch of copies of this. You only need to buy it right now if you don't want to. It's just if you were looking at the card and you wanted to have it, pretty good price. But again, you're going to be sitting on that for a long time. Ghost Reaper ulti, it's on the buy list, but it doesn't mean go buy it right now. You can. I think the price is fair, but you might want to wait and see. I wouldn't go crazy right now just because that set just got added on. So you might want to wait and see where the price goes. Megaclops, secret rares. Yeah, like I said, buy a couple play sets. It's really cheap. Nibiru ultis. Starving Venom secret rare. Again, I wouldn't go crazy on this card, just because there's just better options for play right now, but it doesn't mean that it won't, see play in the future and go back up in price. So I would always have a copy around for play mostly, but it's not a terrible investment. Madolche Queen Tiramisu ulti, and then Herald of the Orange Light super rares. The ultis are pretty much gone now, I believe. I haven't looked at them in a while, but last I looked, they were in the 170, 180 range like a week or two ago. As far as sells, the Book of Lunar Eclipse Starlight rares, if you can get 130 or 140, I wouldn't like fire sell them for like $100 or anything, but if you can get like the price that you want for them and you bought them for well under $100, it might be a good time to move them. Because if these don't end up seeing play, they probably will go back down towards 80 again. Over time, it'll take a while because people that just bought them for like 160 aren't going to want to sell them $80 tomorrow, but over time, if it doesn't see play, they'll eventually be convinced to sell them. Purple Poison Magician, $2 or $3. It could maybe go back up some more, depending if the Draco Slayer deck sees some decent play and gets some results. But it'll probably stay where it's at now. But just a good bulk card to pull out and sell if you have a bunch of them. Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, yeah, just sell it. There's no reason to hold on to it unless you're playing the Draco Slayer deck. Purple Poison, I don't know why I wrote this twice. And then last, I didn't cover this on here because I didn't really feel like I need to, but the Don's Luke Lost Art Ultra Rare is going for like, or not really, I wouldn't say going, it's at $50 right now for the Lost Art Ultra Rare, which is stupid insane, but it's a good thing to point out because I always say go on and just have and pick up copies of the Lost Art cards, even if they're $1 or $2 and they're terrible. They're just not bad to have because there's limited copies by design out there, and you just never know. And the whole set will probably go up in price for the majority of the cards, anyways, just because the nature of the set. It's just designed to be highly collectible. There's a limited amount of them that are made, and people are going to want to have. I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to have the full Lost Art collection, but me personally, there's a lot of cards in the Lost Art series that I like collecting. But I guess that's going to be all for today. Oh, I did want to cover one more thing. So I had a comment on one video, and I'm not like chewing out this person or anything like that, but they just pointed out that I had said Punk was good, and they were basically just saying it's a terrible deck, and I can see where they're coming from. As far as like meta wise and like tournament play, Punk's not viable, but I don't like just try to cater to like highly competitive players. Like I know that there's probably casual people watching, as well as besides that, there's also like I don't know how it is in other cities, but like in Atlanta, where I live, they have multiple formats at locals. So like you have like the advanced formats, obviously, but you also will have I don't really know what to call it, like kind of like a jank format where it's like they specifically ban everything that is like topping in other tournaments. Like you wouldn't be able to play Despia, you wouldn't be able to play tier elements, stuff like that. And so like in those formats, like people are playing like Insectors and Punks and stuff like that. So I just try to give my honest opinion about every deck. Obviously not every, some of the decks like Punk is not going to be a top tier contender. But it doesn't mean that people aren't interested in the deck. So I do try to cover, decks in a positive light if there's something positive there. And I do think the deck is good and it has potential in the future, like I said, but I wasn't necessarily saying that it was a top tier deck because it's definitely not anymore, even though it was at one point. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to clear that up, that, not every deck that I say is good is a top tier contender. It just might be a rogue deck, but I'll try to be more clear about what I mean when I'm talking about decks, just so there isn't confusion. So if you were confused, then that's on me, and I apologize about that. But that's going to be all for today. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye.